as you said, I'm from India, of course. Kind of quite visible from my face where I'm from. Uh, yeah, I've been in Atlanta for last nearly 8 years now, and loving so far. I've had a background in system engineering for 4 years in Infosys before this. Left there, came here, and been with G&D for last 8 years in Atlanta. I was born and brought up in Bhopal, in a small town called Baragar. Mostly studied there, did my high schooling there, pretty close to my house. And yeah, since then, been moving around from Pune to Mysore, back to Pune, and then finally to United States. What I settled on that Indian education system trains you to be clerks. They don't teach you to be specialists. It's literally as simple as that. If you look at the course that I did in Symbiosis, it was very generalized throughout the 3. There is no generalized environment here. Even in engineering, you can vouch to that. For the first year, every single engineering branch has the same, right? Same number of subjects, maybe even the exactly same subject. And that does not make any sense. What am I going to do with the engineering design in computer design?
Right.
I don't need that. Teaching somebody an 8085 architecture or microchip processing, that may be more useful than teaching them engineering design. They are not going to be civil engineers. They're not going to be mechanical engineers. They made their peace. That's why they are in computer science. Don't try to confuse them. Our Indian system is designed to keep you guessing what do you want to do, because they teach you all sorts of stuff and you can't even realize what do I do from here. Here, it's not that. They are very specific. The moment you step into, even I don't have an undergrad experience in US, but I have a lot of friends, and what I've learned from them is the moment you step in, they try to gauge what you are good at. They have these small silos created with different mentors and processors. So if you're good at second factor authentication, if you're good at network security, if you're good at something, marketing design or whatever, they create these silos to try to train these small group of people to be experts in that and not be generalized candidate. If you are generalized, then you're not getting into a senior position soon enough. You'll have to work, you really, pardon my French, but you'll have to work your to get there, to be a specialist. College is not gonna give you that. In US, it's a bit different. In US, they actually try to teach you to be specialized in your field. They give you that motivation and the curriculum, and not only that, the practice and practicality, how to get there. In India, not just the work culture, but even the education culture is quite similar across the board from Bhopal to Pune. Even Symbiosis is one of the good colleges. Still, they have the same issue. You start teaching them 15 different languages, and now everybody is confused. What do I do? In first semester alone, I had 3 languages, which made no sense. You have JavaScript, you're learning Oracle, you're learning Java. Why? So it's just a very confusing program over there. And what we settled on, it was a very detailed discussion back in the day in the college as well. So basically, I'm going to stick to my comment. In India, the education system designed to keep you as clerk, to get you a job in a low-paid job, and then you figure out how you want to go there. They don't teach you where to be, they teach you just how to get in. It was difficult to say the least. In India, you're right. All the time you're broke. No matter how much you make, it's just not enough, because that's not enough. It's literally simple as that. It's not enough. Because if you're in a clerical position, you're not going to get enough money to live a good life. It's literally as simple as that. And I remember my life back in the day. I definitely don't want to go back to it.
Right.
In US, when I got here, first year was definitely a struggle, quite a lot of struggle, because I came here with $3,000,
Right.
and you're in college, you have no job, you can't even work at that time, because doing anything outside of what your visa says, basically, if F1 visa says, my visa says, I'm going for a technical degree, computer science, right? STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if I'm going anything outside of that, I cannot work. So you have to figure out where do you need to get the money from, because 3,000 is not going to keep you fed for an year. So that's a burden on your head from day one, because you know your days are numbered with the money you have. Now you have a choice to ask for more money to your family and friends, or you figure out, before you run out of that $3,000, you figure out how to make more on your own. And that was my goal when I came here, because I had to make more. I didn't want to live a shitty life like I lived in India. So I had to make certain things work. One of the things that a great piece of advice that I have for everyone who's actually inspiring to come here. And a lot of people make this mistake. When they get here, they get into that zone, oh, I am in US. Let's enjoy a bit. And definitely enjoy a bit. But the primary goal should always be start your application right away. Basically, when I say start your application, start searching for a paid work right away. Not go on a gas station and start filling petrol for other people. No, not that kind of a work in your field. But try to figure out as soon as possible. So my experience was I got here on 30th of December 2016. Exact day. Celebrated New Year's, got that out of the way, done, happy guy. 2nd of January, start application. I hadn't even started my college. That was on 9th of Jan. And on 2nd of Jan, I was already applying for internships with the limited knowledge and a very rudimentary resume I had at that time. And did not get any calls, but that's part of the process. Right. Because the resume was not that exciting in any way. It was not really thought of. Came from a very limited knowledge back from Infosys, all that. It was misaligned. So I can get that. And now I can relate what the mistakes I did back in the day. Completely normal. Everybody does that. But the goal should always be upfront, because a lot of people are not gonna be doing that. So as soon as you come in, start looking for a job. And there are opportunities. People who say I'm unable to find opportunity, you're not trying hard enough. Not the market right now. Market right now is really bad as we know it, because of AI, because of layoffs and so on and so forth. But back in 2017, when I started looking, yes, market wasn't very healthy, but it was just enough. So I always say this to people, don't hold. Don't wait for it. Right. Even though most of the colleges don't allow you to work before first semester. Don't be naive to think that you're going to get a first call back. The ratio right now in this market, it is 1 or 2 calls out of 300 applicants. It's that bad. Back in the day, it was 1 or 2 out of 100. So people who are aspiring to come here now, they have a bigger challenge than I have. There is no saving. There is no saving in student life. You just can't do that, because everything either. Okay, let's take a step back, right? So, okay, you get to your job. Basically for the first semester, like I said, I wasn't allowed to work as an intern in a professional background. So I was allowed to work in the college though. So I did find another job, which was student assistantship, and I got paid. If I'm not wrong, I was the most paid guy apparently. I got paid about $1,800 a month. Right. And that was a really good thing. And why I say that, because my entire budget for the last 2 months when I got in Jan and Feb, I started in March my student assistantship, but in Jan and Feb, I spent average of about $800 a month. Suddenly realizing you're going to make $1,800 now in this month, that gives you a surplus money to make certain changes to your lifestyle. Right. So definitely a little bit gets into that. You improve your lifestyle. You start finally buying some clothes. You buy maybe a good mattress, maybe a bed, something like that. You try to furnish your home. We bought a TV to start with. And so, yeah, things were looking up, but it was still not enough. 1,800 is still not enough. So started saving a lot of it. Like, I think I was saving about 800 of that 1,800 every month. Right. But all of that money, that saving money that in the bank account, did not go into buying fancy stuff for myself. It went back into the tuition for the third semester. When I had accumulated enough, that was about 7,000, I think, and I paid that 7,000 back into the tuition, so I don't have to take that much loan. That is a major equation that people don't realize. If you are here with a loan, there is no saving. From day one, the moment you took your first semester fees from the bank, your target becomes, how do I clear this thing up quickly? Because compared to United States, where you can find an education loan for 3 to 5%, in India, as we clearly know, that's not the case. Even with my father being in a bank, I got a 10%. And 10% is a chunk of money when you're taking a loan out of 22, 23 lakhs. The interest accumulates really, really fast. So priority for, at least for all of the people I knew, their priority and on the loan, the priority was to settle that thing as soon as possible. And if you can, Don't take much out of the bank and try to use your own money. And that was fun. I didn't have a scholarship from the college because I got internship quickly enough. Few people were working as graduate research assistant, GRA is what we call it. In that, you get 40% of your tuition waived off. That was not the case for me. A lot of my friends got that. I did not. I relied on internship because I wanted to get into the professional world, then just reducing my fees at that time. That all worked out, but yes, no saving whatsoever. Everything goes back into the college and maybe a little bit try to improve your life when you got there. How do you save money? First money we saved is we bought a $60 mattress compared to a $300 mattress I have right now. Right? So you make your concessions. We didn't have a bed. We didn't have a bed frame. We slept on the floor on a mattress. We didn't have a study table. So everything happened on that mattress. And 1.5 years we were there. So it was a slumming kind of a life. You're just trying to get through that while you save expenses enough, clear your loan and so on. Supermarkets, for example, like supermarkets, I'm going to get to Indian groceries, but just typical supermarket, your regular supermarket. Kroger was close to it. Now you have a few options. You have got Kroger's, you got Publix, you got Walmart, you got Costco, you got so many other options in US. Each and every one of these fits into a different price bracket. What we found out, Kroger was 20% cheaper than anything. So we always went there because that's 20% saving right off the bat. For example, bread. If I'm going to buy a bread for $2 over there in Publix, I'm going to buy it for $1.60 in Kroger. So I'm going to Kroger. The small things you can adjust in your life because bread is a bread. If you're eating a wheat bread, that's fine. There is only so much magic Publix can do for extra 40 cents they're charging. So you pick this. Now you go to a liquor store. Instead of buying double black, you buy a black label or just a JD over here because it's incredibly cheap. So you stay within your limits and you try to, make concessions with your lifestyle in a lot of ways. So you try to figure out some things I did wrong. Looking back, I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have skimped on that money because going back and thinking in retro, a lot of that savings, not a lot, but I would say about 20% of the saving things I did, the steps I took was unnecessary and made my life even more difficult. Just for the few extra bucks, I made my life a lot more difficult. And I'm going to get back on that stuff, but yes, what you said about India, it applies over here as well. You have to make decisions what you want to spend on. For example, Indian grocery. Now, the Indian grocery store from where we used to live was about 17 miles. You got two options. You got an option for a cab that can get you there in 30 minutes, right? Now, the cab ride would be about $25 each side. That's a $50. When your entire budget for the month is 80, 50 right out of the pocket in day one on a cab drive, not even shopping, just a cab drive, it's a lot. Even though it was distributed with 4 guys, it's still a lot. So we had to make a choice. We took trains. It took 1.5 hours for us to get there. Looking back, was it the right decision? Absolutely not. This is one of those. Should not have done that. That put us in more of a strain trying to buy Indian groceries, carrying 10 kgs of rice and all that through the trains and coming back home. It was not worth it. But you figure it out when you go along where you want to save the money. And there are a lot of steps you can take. In US, the beautiful thing is you can go from living a good life from $800 a month, not a good life, but a decent enough life. For $800 a month to $4,000 a month. It rapidly changes your lifestyle. I still go to Kroger's, but the things I buy, the quality I buy, everything differs because you were here. You've seen just the bread aisle in supermarkets.
Right.
They have an aisle. They don't have a stool. They have an aisle of breads. So you have so many choices to make, and it applies basically everywhere in US because in US you have variety for everything. From mattress to your cab drives, you can do a shared pool, you can take a Mata, you have a lot of different options, which may not be so accessible in India. Certain differences, but the point still remains, you can stay within your limits. Would it be a good life for you? Probably not, but that is kind of by design because you are here to improve your own life. Dabur was not one of the items that was available back in the day. So a couple of people were looking for that. They couldn't find it. But now looking into the store and the number of stores that have opened up for Indian stores in the last just a decade or so, it's incredible. So I'm gonna go ahead and say everything is accessible. A lot more accessible it was 8 years ago for me, but right now you can find anything you want that you get in India. And just for an example, I used to pack my bags from India to bring supplies here. I don't do that anymore. That's reflective of the same thing that, yeah, that was a mistake as well, by the way, but I shouldn't have done that extended thing. But you still had to bring certain supplies, right? Not so much. Everything is available. And it's not that, if you put that into context of how much you make and how much you spend on that, it's not that expensive. Like, for example, basic utensil stuff that we used to carry, right? Those things are expensive. Those things can get really expensive. There are some specialty items that I always recommend people to carry because Indians rely on a cooker a lot. Pressure cooker, yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy an Instapot over here, that's going to cost you $100. It won't matter to you when you get a job. In college life, when you see a price tag of $100 on an Instapot just to cook rice, you're not buying that. One of the things, everybody bought a cooker. We had so many cookers at home that it was hard to keep track of them where these were because every guy bought them. We went overboard as well. We bought cleaning supplies and a bunch of other stuff that we should not have because in US, you find better supplies in Kroger's and everywhere for really cheap. That specialty items, because pressure cooker is not a thing that you can buy here easily from a store because rice is cooked very differently than it is done in India. So that kind of a thing, and you will only learn by experience what you need at that time. We used to bring foods, we used to bring rakes, we used to bring utensils, cleaning supplies, anything we could think of that we could save money on in India. And yes, if you think about it, everything in India is cheap. But the trouble you have to go through to put through in a bag and carry all that weight back to India, a lot of things don't make any sense. What the process looks like for my friends, at least, you start in the college, you try to make your ends meet, you try to find something of an opportunity as an employment in your college to start, where most of my friends, I went the internship route, they went the college employment route because that waived off 40% of their tuition. And that was a big chunk of money they wanted to save. So a lot of people went with that. They did that. It pays you, I think, about $1,000 to $1,500 or something like that, depending on the assistantship you have. Keeps you fed, took 40% of the tuition. That's a good start for a first semester. I always tell people that's a good start. I could not find one, so I had to settle for a student assistantship. That does not take away the 40% tuition, but it gives me additional stipend for the month, which was about $1,800 to $2,000. For others, I always recommend go for a GRA because that 40% tuition reduction, it matters a lot. We are talking about thousands of dollars that you don't have to pay back in loans, right? So it does matter for the first semester. But my process is, I'm going to say, the moment you step in, you have to start applications for your job. You have to furnish your resume. Resume, for most of the people that have realized, at least from India, they don't know how to make good resume. That is something, now it's much easier because of AI. You don't have to do much. So utilize that. Your resume is the one thing that throws you out 80% of the time because your resume most of the times is not being validated by a person. It's being validated by an AI.
Right.
So if you don't have the right terms, if you don't, just like SEO, you're not going to be on Google's top page unless you do certain things right. And you have to do certain things right in your resume as well for the AI to pick you and give you a call. LinkedIn Premium helps you. It gives you a month-long subscription. But my suggestion to people is hold on that till you're finally ready to go ballistic on applications. When I say ballistic, I'm talking about 100 applications a day. I've seen people do that. It seems unrealistic. I've seen people do that. I've seen people create automated bots to apply for them. People have gone to those lengths just to find a job. So it can be really hard for certain people. It can be really easy for certain people. Depends where your expertise lie and what's in the market available for you. Biggest piece of advice that I'll give to people, don't limit yourself. Just because you came from a system engineering should not restrict you from going into solution architecture or project management. Stay within your field. STEM is a big field. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. There is just so much that comes into that. You don't have to limit yourself to just one field that you came back from. And a lot of people made that mistake. They worked off their resume, showed, okay, I am willing to do this, but are you willing to learn something new? That opens up a boatload of opportunities for you that people miss.
Right.
And that's one thing I can say I did it right. I came from system engineering and went into cybersecurity. So my previous experience is not that relevant. I was a front end guy, and now I'm working on a back end industry completely. Overall experience, I have about 12 years now. But if you look at it, very individual and very different experiences, because I was willing to learn something, and that gave me an edge and put me in front of a company for internship that when other candidates were still struggling for. So don't limit yourself. That's the key thing.